Hi, my name is Zoe. I actually started gaining weight in grade three because of steroid inhalers for asthma. I reached up to about 275 pounds. I've lost around 100 pounds now. I honestly got tired of being tired all the time.
Hello, my name is Maya. I've been overweight all my life, with my heaviest being 250 pounds, and ultimately I decided to lose weight for my health, but also for my mom and my younger brother because I helped to take care of them.
Hi, I'm Bryant. I've been overweight most of my life, three-quarters of my life, in fact. My highest weight was 350 pounds, and I've lost 150 since then. And I did it because I wanted a better quality of life overall.
Hi, I'm Vishal. My max weight was 335. I've been overweight my whole life, and the reason why I decided to lose my weight was more as a therapeutic uh, uh, coping mechanism type of thing to deal with some stresses that I had, and it just stuck, and I enjoy it now.
My name's Sabrina. My highest weight was 264. I'm down to 146, so I lost a total of 118 pounds so far. And the reasons why I decided to lose weight is I was sick of being fat.
Hi, I'm Aaron on the trails on Instagram. That's all one word. And I am not sure about my max weight because I didn't measure myself through most of my life, and that was an issue in itself. But I was overweight pretty much from childhood on, and towards the end of 2020, I just had a moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I don't like this anymore. And I started walking more, and walking led to running, and running led to trail running.
Hi, I'm Katie. My heaviest known weight was 359.6 pounds, and that was in 2008. And I spent the last 8 years after that losing approximately half my body weight, and then spent the last 7 years since then maintaining that. And I knew if I didn't lose weight, I would not be standing here speaking to anybody right now.
Hi, my name is Susan. My max weight was 435 pounds, and I was hit that in 2022 or 21. I've been heavy since I was 13, and I lost my weight because at the age of 40, every blood panel I ever had finally showed that my body gave out.
Hello, YouTube, and welcome to the Body Honesty Project. My name is Lydia, and today we are continuing on with the panel discussions. Today's panel are guests that have been fat for most of their lives, who grew up fat, but then as adults decided to lose weight. In this video, we will discuss the reasons why they thought they were fat, their social lives while being a fat kid, their turning point when they decided to lose weight, what sort of gimmicks they might have tried, and what is working now. It was so nice to have a conversation with these brave, inspiring individuals that show that you can indeed change your life. And I hope that you get just as inspired listening to them as I did speaking with them. So, on with the panel.
So the first question I have for all of you is, since you were fat your entire lives, did you know why? Like, did you think it was your metabolism? Did you think that you were genetically disposed to being fat? Did you just think you were unlucky? Or did you actually know that you were overeating?
Okay, for me, I definitely knew that I was a chunky kid being in grade three. Like I said, being put on those steroid inhalers, I ballooned. I was a skinny little kid. And then within a year, I probably gained about 30, 40 pounds. So it was significant. Yeah, there was no doubt in my mind that I was chunky. It kind of snowballed from there because kids pick on you because you're the chubby kid. So you go home and you eat more food to try and make you feel better, and it just kind of escalates from there. It was that way my whole entire life. That's how I coped with everything because I was already fat in my mind, so I figured, what's the difference, right? Might as well go home, make myself feel better, eat more food. So it did not stop. I got really bad for closet eating, so I would just devour basically everything when nobody was around. Yeah, there was never ever a doubt, and everybody made sure that I knew it.
Yes, I most definitely knew I was fat because I've grown up, I take care of a chronically ill parent along with my younger brother, and when I was younger, we were also going through a really bad time in our household with another person. And so I really took a lot of that hurt and that anger and that trauma that I was experiencing and just basically ate to comfort myself because I was a child in an adult's role and I didn't have anything else because, food isn't going to yell at you. Food isn't going to hurt you in a sense because it was hurting me. But I used it as the only coping mechanism that I knew how to use, and I would sneak food, and eventually I got into the rut of, extreme binging and then extreme restriction cycles that made my weight fluctuate. And I mean, I never was directly bullied or anything, but the snide comments about like my weight from people around me and family members that, just made me know that all the time, like, yes, I am bigger. I know I'm bigger than people. And essentially that was it.
Absolutely. I knew why I was fat. I was a big kid to begin with. I'm 6'2" now, but I was always the tallest kid in class. But I was definitely also the largest kid. So like Maya, I wasn't bullied because, when you're the big kid, it's a little bit harder to bully somebody like that. But people let you know that you were definitely one of the fat ones. And I knew it. I was a latchkey kid. So I was the sort of kid that would stop at the store on my way home and buy those flaming hot Cheetos or cake or what have you, and had like gorge it while I was at home before my mom could even get home to like make dinner. So I always knew that I liked to eat, and my family generally likes to eat. We're that type of family where you pile the plate as high as possible. So I knew I liked to eat, but I was under no illusion as to why I was fat because I like to eat and I did not like to exercise. I hated sports. I wanted to be on the couch watching cartoons and TV and playing with toys.
So yeah, I knew I was fat. It was because I wasn't very athletic and I did like to eat a lot of food. I would eat, big plates of whatever my mom made for dinner, or I would go eat ramen or hot pockets, all that good stuff. And I didn't do a lot of exercise or athletics when I was younger. And then I got older and I just got bigger and bigger.
Generally for me, I kind of did not know the reason why I was fat. Growing up, it seems so dumb now, but like I was relatively like I was really skinny when I was in elementary school, and I just kind of blew up like size wise in middle school and just kind of kept going till like college and like into like my late 20s. Um, but in hindsight, now that I've actually done a lot of things and like kind of changed a lot, like my habits and my eating habits and like actually working out, I was a bored eater and I ate at night and I ate a lot of processed foods. And growing up, my mom, my dad, no one in my family cooked. So everything was either processed or it was like in a bag. So like one of the things I kind of did nowadays is I basically cook everything. Like even when it comes to bread, if I want bread, I'll make homemade bread. I don't buy like bread at the grocery store. I think that's one of the biggest things I kind of realized that was kind of different than some people who did grow up with like having real meals. I was like a chronic grazer basically, is that's kind of how I balloon up. And with like how much like you can pack like brownies and like Mountain Dew at night, like secret eating. It's really not that surprising in, hindsight.
Well, in retrospect, I blamed it on everything except for how much I ate. And, I of course I was aware that I was fat, but at the same time, I just thought it was just who I was. I just considered it part of my personality. And, if I thought it was genetics, so apparently it was some sort of genetics that only affected me because I was the only person in my family who was overweight. And so yeah.
Well, growing up, I would say I was kind of on the edge of like chunky or chubby, but in the 80s and 90s, yeah, I definitely knew I was fat because growing up in that culture, if you were even 5 pounds overweight, they called you fat. So yeah, I was definitely aware. But it really wasn't until after high school that I really started ballooning up to weigh beyond just a little chunky to obese. And when in about the span of about 18 months, from the time I was 19 till I turned 21, I got hit with a 1, 2, 3 gut punch, is what I called it. My dad passed away very unexpectedly when I was 19, and he was only 52. So that was definitely a lot to take in. And then I made a mistake of getting married way too young, also getting divorced way too young, too. And then about 3 weeks actually after I got married, I injured my ankle terribly. And I spent, goodness, over 10 years trying to get answers, trying to get treatment. Finally ended up having surgery on it and found out I tore pretty much everything but my Achilles and was walking around on it for 10 years. And in that time, I was just trying to survive and turn to food for comfort because I could not literally do anything but sit on the couch.
Yeah, it was a couple things that led to it. I was in gymnastics and swim and dive when I was very little. And we moved from Arizona because I'm a military brat to Maryland. So going from a dry heat to extremely humid, I felt like I was drowning, which made me not want to do anything outside. Which, when you are a very athletic kid and you eat a lot, and then you're no longer athletic and you still continue to eat a lot, you start packing it on. I would say I knew I was fat. I was bigger than my sister, who is 3 years older than me. My brother also suffered the same situation. Both of us were very, very large for our size. We did not have processed food. My mother made stuff. She wouldn't buy it. She called it crap. She's not bringing it into the house. I learned to bake at 12. I was making cookies and cakes. So anything sweet I wanted, I knew how to bake it. I had the ingredients in the house. I could do it. And we were in charge of having dinner ready when the family, because both my parents worked. So I was in charge, and my brother and my sister, and we were in charge of the house and making sure everybody was fed. And we were eaters, all of us. But where my father's running PT and my mother's very active at work and my sister was very active, my brother and I stayed inside the house and really didn't do anything, and the weight just piled on.
The next question I have for all of you is more social, because there's a lot of talk about how fat phobia is similar to racism or transphobia and other things like that. And we all know, if we've watched my videos, Lydia has a very different opinion on that. But what I would like to know from your point of view, what was your social life like? Were you bullied? Was it harder to fit in being the fat kid?
Like I said, I wasn't really bullied per se. It was just like the snide comments. I was really heavily involved in a lot of things in school, so I basically knew everybody. And so I like to consider myself a bit of a floater. So I was, hanging around with a lot of people, but I had my close-knit group of friends. But it was the people who were outside of like the activities that I was in and like outside of my friend group that I kind of had like that disconnect with. And it's like, they really didn't want to come up to me and like befriend me. And I like to say that I never really had problems making friends because I've always been extroverted and very bubbly, and I never really let my size hold me back, just in different aspects of like, relationships and stuff like that. But when it came to friendships, I was more like a social butterfly. It was just the people who didn't really know me for me that really, shunned me and didn't want to be my friend.
Like Maya, I wasn't really bullied. I'm that sort of person that's more likely to be ignored. But I think like in elementary school or high school, it was less of an issue. I went to a special academy for math and science in Illinois, so I lived with my friends. So I had a close group of friends, and I was pretty well known in the school, so I didn't feel isolated by my size. I don't think my size becomes an issue in terms of socializing with people until really college, and definitely there was no dating involved anywhere at that point of time.
My social life was actually not bad. I mean, I had friends. I'd go out, I'd play a little bit, or hang out. Older years. In regards to bullying, there was a little bit, but not so much because I was fat. It was more because my athleticism. Because I was fat. I was, like I said, I was never very athletic in my younger years, so I wasn't good at sports. Or running, or sit-ups, or pull-ups, any of those things. So you go to gym class and you try to do those activities, or if you're doing like a team event like baseball, kickball, whatever, you'd hear all the groans when it'd be my turn to go do something, stuff like that, or some comments. So that was the extent of the bullying. Really, was more when it came to athletics. But in general, no, I had friends. I'd go out. I'd go movies, play pool, bowling, whatever it was. Um, my later years, when I got really overweight, it got harder to do some of those activities because I had pains and things like that. So I'd more just sit to the sideline. But my friends never really made me feel bad for it. They were good about that.
For me, I never really had any issues like for my weight causing me to have like issues with like friends or like what some of the fat activists say, like being bullied. I had my like I had other issues that were reasons for why I was less active with my friends in elementary school than for my weight. Um, and honestly, as like I kind of aged and I got bigger, I kind of became more active with my friends, which seems weird. Like it seems like it would be like the reverse, but I became more outgoing when I was in middle school and in high school and in college, that I kind of even forget like how like bad it felt to be a kid, at least like in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, which everything was just kind of awful. Like when it came to like weight wise, like, and thinking about it now, like from my like highest weight from elementary school, I was probably barely even like would count as obese. I would probably just be like kind of a chunky kid. Um, but yeah, nothing really held me back. So I have nothing really else to add than like I had a pretty normal childhood. Nothing really like affected me. I wasn't really bullied when I like the bigger I got, I really wasn't even that bullied much, if anything at all. Like there's other things like that hit me for than like being fat. You know what I mean?
Right.
In retrospect, it definitely was affected by me being fat. But like I said before, I considered it such a part of my personality that like when people would say, "Hey, you're fat," I'd be like, "So what? I'm fat. That's who I am. That's me." And oddly enough, I felt it more as an adult than I did as a kid, because a few years ago when the whole like multi-level marketing stuff really took off, I would get these random messages from people who I hadn't talked to in years, and they try to sell me some sort of weight loss product, and it was like, "Hey, would you want this?" And kind of the underlying message was like, you want to change who you are, or, like, and I had this magic potion or whatever that can make you not be fat anymore. So yeah, I mean, there was some effect to it. Um, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, there was so much else to pick on. I guess I never felt like my weight ever really played a factor in that. I went to private school in elementary school, and I skipped a grade halfway through the school year. So that definitely followed me until I moved. And then we moved to a really small town where I was the weird kid in a small town. So I never really felt like my weight played a factor in it. It felt like a lot of other things probably did. I got teased for my red hair. I got teased for the music I listened to. I got teased for wearing black clothes and being told I was a witch. I mean, just so many other things than that. And maybe there was some overlap and that played a factor, but those words were never said to me, at least. It was always something else that they could find. As far as that, like in my social life, I never really felt like I had any issues with that, though, simply because I had a really great group of core friends. And in a small town, you can find a couple of great people. You feel like you've like hit the lottery sometimes, because there was literally 400 kids in my entire high school. So we all kind of knew each other. And because of that, I don't really feel like there was any real bullying going on. And at least I never felt it.
In middle school, I felt bullied. I don't really think I was. I think I felt I really felt my weight at that time. But again, you're 12, 13, so the world's against you. You're in that teenage mental grade. So when I got into high school, I flourished. I was a social butterfly. I hung out with everybody, the jocks, the cheerleaders, the band people, the drama people. I had friends in every aspect. And I never felt bullied. And even if you talk to my parents, my mother's like, you blossomed in high school. You just, even though you were getting bigger, you just did everything. And I did. And I was the one who fought the bullies. If they went after somebody who couldn't defend themselves, I was after them. And I never felt attacked until I got older and in college. But I had a very social, I was out every weekend. I had friends. I had good friends. I really never felt bullied because of my weight.
Okay.
When I got in
Thank you for
high
sharing.
school was when you started having the difference or when I got in college, it was when the guys I started noticing weren't really as receptive to me until they got to know me and they're like, oh, you're amazing. You're one of the guys.
From the sounds of it, mine was the exact opposite of Katie. I actually grew up in a small town, a whole 5 streets. We had 30 kids in the entire school. Never got bullied growing up there. We moved into a bigger city about halfway through grade 7, and that's when the bullying started. So small town, chubby kid coming to a bigger town. The kids were ruthless. Like Fatty McFat was my nickname in middle school. All of the guys would tell me all the time about how, like, oh, you'd be so cute if you weren't so fat. That even continued into high school. High school was probably worse. Surprisingly, it was men that bullied me worse than women. A lot of the women would actually be supportive and they'd be like, hey, like, don't listen to that guy. He's a jerk. And seriously, it was the men who would say, like, you're so pretty. It's too bad you're fat. If you would like lose 100 pounds, you'd be the hottest girl in the school. Typical high school boy mentality. But yeah, even in high school, that Fatty McFat unfortunately followed me the entire time, and it was absolutely horrible. I didn't really have any friends. Again, being the fat girl, I was the first one to get a vehicle in my high school, so I got friends then. But behind my back, they were still making fun of me.
What I would like to know is, now that I know a little bit about your social life, do you relate to any of those fat talkers on TikTok when they talk about their experiences? Like, is a part of you go, yeah, I relate, that's what it was like? Or would you watch them and go, what the hell are you smoking? Anyone?
I don't relate with them.
I can't say I relate with them either. Because a lot, at least from the ones I see from like that you comment about and some of the other commenters that talk about them, it seems like they want special privileges for not having self-control or taking care of themselves. They'd rather be pampered than being told the truth and trying to take accountability for what they've done. And so that's something that I have a big problem with when it comes to them and bothers me a lot.
I think
Mine is the victim mentality.
Yeah.
That too, yes.
The persecution complex is part of it too. Because I mean, like, you don't always get treated well when you're bigger, but some of it is basically mind reading and projection, where somebody looks at you weird. Well, it must be because I'm fat, or they're not always nice. Well, people aren't always nice, and I think there's some of that that's sort of like, lots of people don't get treated the best way possible. It's not always just because you're fat. There's a lot of reasons people might not like you.
I think for me, as I like watch this stuff, a part of me feels like I get gaslighted when I just watch too much in like a short period of time. Because I'm like, was I actually treated? It's like, no, I wasn't. Like I just cannot relate to them at all. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I
The
see a lot of it where they're like talking and it's all as if it's an internal projection that they put on it. And I know I felt some of that internally, like I was thinking it, but it was never said to me. And I don't think anybody actually even thought it when they were walking by me or looking at me. It's that whole I'm big, I feel this way, so everybody has to be looking at me the way I think going on in my head. And I every time I hear a bunch of them speak, I'm kind of like, really? You think somebody's got all that time to worry about you?
This is an interesting one because I know that I've done a lot of this stuff myself. What weight loss gimmicks and schemes did you try before you actually found the right way to lose weight?
I literally tried everything, like you name it, like Atkins, keto. I can't even name all this stuff. Like I've tried all those gimmicks, Herbalife. Tried the whole Jenny Craig thing, Weight Watchers. I basically, you name it, I tried it. I even went to the extent of those stupid little green tea pills that they were selling. I even tried taking those. Those don't do anything.
I actually never did any of the weight loss schemes or diets or anything. It was mainly just I'm not going to eat, and therefore that will help me lose weight. And then I would lose weight. And then obviously you're heavily restricting, and that's not sustainable. So then I would eat a bunch, and then I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to get hardcore and not eat again, and just really severe calorie deficit, and then the binging and restriction cycle. So that's what I really struggled with, rather than any weight loss schemes or tricks and stuff like that.
So Maya and I need to be best friends because clearly we did a lot of the same things. With the exception of a weird moment of doing that cabbage diet that managed to pop up periodically back in the 90s. I didn't do any real organized ones. It was more like I found it easier to just not eat or severely restrict more so than to try to figure out a diet that works. I liked food too much. So I would kind of restrict dieting and then exercise a lot up until the point where I got bored with it and would stop. So it was just a constant unending cycle of less food, more exercise, and then up until the point where I figured something out.
In regards to food, I never really did much in the way of dieting, like trying to lessen it or change what I was eating. I did try to be athletic at times. I tried lifting weights a few times here and there over the years. When I was younger, I actually used to do martial arts and boxing a little bit, but without that food aspect and working out more after it with the training, it never helped me lose weight or anything. And that's really my story with that.
I feel so odd because I'm kind of the opposite of everyone, where growing up, I kind of my mom never really did any diets, so I didn't really learn anything about them. So there was never any Weight Watchers, Atkins, or any of that. The only time I actually kind of remember trying something was in college with a friend of mine when she decided to do Atkins, and I guess I tried doing with her. That was hell. I would never suggest that, just because it was just so unplanned. Basically, the second time I've ever tried to lose weight was calorie counting, and it's funny enough, that's actually what I did to lose all my weight, was calorie counting. But the second time I ever tried to lose weight, I did not do it smartly. So I still kind of ate processed foods. I did not have a food scale. It was kind of guesstimating and being a little too kind in my app when it came to portioning, and that time I lost probably 50 pounds, and then I plateaued, and then I got to a point where why is this not working? I guess I'm destined for this. And then I kind of went back into bad habits afterwards. And then I ballooned another probably 70 pounds.
Oddly enough, the one fad diet I ever tried was the Subway diet back around 2000, 2001. And when that was big, when that guy did his commercials, the guy whose name I probably can't mention on here because of YouTube algorithm and all that. Yeah. But oddly enough, though, my big issue was that whenever a big fad diet would come along, I always had like some sort of smart reason why that wouldn't work. Like when Atkins got big, I said, oh, people need carbs. And, when keto got big a couple years ago, I said, oh, well, people, that's unsustainable. And so, but all the time I was walking around like over 300 pounds. And so I had all these, expert advice for people who were trying to improve themselves or try these diets or just anything really. And it's kind of the same thing with people who are vegans, like, oh, that'll never work. You can't lose weight by being vegan. And so, but all the while I was just walking around just completely unaware apparently of how big I was. And I wasn't trying anything at this time. So yeah.
Well, I didn't really ever try until about high school, later on in high school. And my best friend and I at the time would go to the bookstore and we would just read any diet book that we could. And it didn't really matter if we understood it or anything like that. We would just try to find anything we could to try anything. So we would try keto. I remember the carbohydrate addicts diet. We tried different shakes. I knew not to try Weight Watchers because my aunt had already done that in the 80s. She lost like 100, 150 pounds. And as soon as she quit Weight Watchers, it all came back. So I knew not to try those or Jenny Craig or anything like that. But I was dumb enough to try a fad jab before they banned it. So that was a big wake up call for me. And I realized at that point, whatever I was going to do to lose weight, I was going to have to keep doing. And I was going to have to make a lifestyle change instead of all the fad diets that I tried. So while I did try a lot, I can't really say I actually did any of them. I took a lot of tidbits and just kind of mashed them together and had horrible results.
I tried everything. I think at 15, my mother and father put me on the military diet because my father was on it, which is a very controlled diet and tablespoon of peanut butter with a toast and a banana kind of situation. I did Weight Watchers when I hit 20 the first time. I've done Herbalife. I've done Jenny Craig, LA Fitness, every single pill you can think of. I've tried it. Basically anything that's on the market, I've done. And I would say I never really did do them the way they were. I was a master manipulator of a program. I would follow it the way it was written for a little bit, and then I'd figure out I was doing the plan, but I wasn't doing the plan. Weight Watchers, for example, the points. I would sit there and say, oh, I get 64 points a day, plus I have 48 bonus points. So if I eat nothing but vegetables, which are 0 all day, then I can have a burger and fries and a milkshake for dinner. And I'm doing the plan, I'm gaining my points, but I'm not doing the plan. And it created a bed situation for me and in later life where I became a secret eater and I suffered from BED and I had to recover from that.
Now that we covered off the things that didn't work, I'd like to know what did work. So if you'd like to tell me like your turning point or like the moment where you said, I'm going to do this, or when you discovered the right way to live, the right way to change your lifestyle, that moment, and describe what your life is like now.
So actually one of the biggest turning points for me was after I separated from my ex-husband, feeling sorry for myself, sitting there eating more food, just gaining more weight. So I literally woke up one day and I was sick of it. I was literally sick of it. Tired of waking up, being tired, wasn't able to even walk like a block without having to stop and rest. So yeah, I started counting calories. I hate to break it to you, fat acceptance, but that's literally all it takes. Calories in versus calories out. So I started tracking everything that I was eating in my Fitbit app. Total pain in the butt, but it works 100%. Like I can't remember who mentioned it earlier. You underestimate what you're actually eating if you're not tracking. So I kept thinking, oh, I'm only eating 1,000 calories a day, when in reality you're having 3,000 calories a day. So that's all it took, just simply counting calories, and I dropped about 100 pounds. I can go for a walk for half an hour, 45 minutes straight. I can go hiking, I can go play with my dog. Like everything is just a lot better, to be honest.
Okay, well, when I first discovered my heaviest weight, I was actually 19 years old. I'm 21 now. And I just felt all that shame and that guilt of seeing it, but I really didn't like do anything when I first saw that number. It wasn't until my beginning semester of my sophomore year of college last year that I was waking up every morning severely nauseous. I would lay in bed for like 2 to 3 hours each morning and just cry because I could barely move without like wanting to, regurgitate all over the place. And it took me actually a month and a half for my appetite and my body to get back to normal. And I was really scared. And I didn't tell anybody because my mother has chronic illness with her digestive system. So I was really ashamed and scared. But after that, I realized like this is a turning point. This is a place where I can actually get better. So I started, cooking more whole foods instead of eating processed foods because I was living in an apartment instead of the dorms. And then I started calorie counting. And then it wasn't until last summer that I actually started like working out and I started doing things on YouTube. And as of recent, I've been going to the gym now for a couple months and I absolutely love it. I go for about 2 hours a day and I lift and I do cardio, but ultimately it was just making small changes over time that helped me lose over 100 pounds.
So I'm kind of the great heretic of fat acceptance in that I had a gastric bypass. I was 32, so this is 13 years ago. I was 32, and I was having problems with my back, my knee. My doctor was just prescribing me blood pressure medication. So he was like, you could start to see the proverbial ball going down the hill, that things were about to head in the wrong direction. And he suggested that I consider doing this. And I'm the sort of person where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to really lean into it. And they told me once you have it that you've got 17 months where you're the 17 or 18 months where this is going to be its most effective. And boy, as soon as I had it, I hit the ground running. I was in the gym for hours at a time. I'm like, I'm getting this weight off of me. Like I would be on the elliptical for an hour and it was helping me control my food. Part of the way you eat with a gastric bypass is that you have to reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you eat. You focus on getting your protein. You have to keep the fats low because your body is not going to digest that well. Keep that sugar low. And to this day, that's what I've been able to focus on. Like I still eat that way now.
All right, so my turning point is, like I said, I was dealing with emotional things. My dad passed away, a couple of my cousins passed away from his side of the family, actually, all within a few months of each other. And, it hit me pretty hard having to deal with all that. And I remembered when I was younger, I did attempt to be athletic. I did martial arts and boxing a little bit. That was a great stress relief. And on top of it, I was having mobility issues because I was so large. Like I said, my max was 335 at the time. And so I decided to try to do it as a stress relief and like in a therapeutic manner. And I started off with like a variation of keto. I did very low carb, high protein, but I didn't really put in too much fat because I already thought, hey, I'm fat, I don't need more fat. And I did a lot of cardio. And then I got to a point where I did lose a huge chunk of weight, but I wanted to build muscle then. So then I changed. I went into lifting and I changed to caloric deficit. And on top of it, my motivation now to keep going is actually my dad. My dad was always a really fit guy. I used to have a picture when I was a kid. I wish I knew what happened to it, of him like actually picking another guy like in a body slam position. He was really strong and buff, and it was awesome. And like now I'm trying to like kind of continue that, because when he did start getting older, he had diabetes and things, and his body toned down. I don't have those things. I've actually been very fortunate. So I want to kind of do like a continuation, because everyone always compares me to my dad and say how I look so similar to him.
For me, what I did was like what I did the second time is I counted calories, and I feel like the food scale I bought was worth like the $10 that I paid for it, because like that thing, I use it every day. I use it for like everything I cook. That's basically that's basically it, is just being really honest in calorie counting is what I did to lose all of my weight. I also just I got a gym membership, and I went 2 to 3 times a day, not 2 times, 2 to 3 times a week. And that it just seems so easy and simple, and I just don't know how to explain it, because it wasn't like really anything different. I used a food scale, I counted my calories, and I try to move more. And being like, since I gained weight so gradually over time, the health stuff kind of creeped up kind of similar, where it got to a point where like I fell once and I ruined my knee. And since I was so heavy, oh, I guess my knee's just ruined now. And you just kind of get used to it. And like there are times I would lay in bed and like my feet would tingle and be like, oh no, I know what this is. I've heard enough about this from like my mom who started to get diabetes. Like that feels kind of similar. Well, I just got to live with this. And then when I turned 30, at my work, everyone else is in like their early 20s. So since I'm the oldest, the day I turned 30, when I went to put on pants, when I was at like my heaviest at like 260 something, I threw out my back, and I'm like, they can never hear about this. They can never know that I threw out my back the day I turned 30. And I just thought like, oh, I guess it's just going to be downhill from here. There's nothing I can really do, until like I hit a point where I'm like, maybe I should do something about this. And then I just did calorie counting again, and I just drink more water. Like it seems so simple now, but hindsight, I guess.
Well, first off, when I kind of had that moment where I just looked at myself and wanted to improve, I started walking more, and walking led to hiking more. I have a really great state park in my hometown, thankfully, and in that state park they had a 5K, as I'd been hiking for a few months, and so I signed up for the 5K, and I saw a friend there, and they said, well, we have a 5K next month at this other place. Let's go do that together. And so from there, I just started signing up for more races, more running, and really about everything I've done since then has been done in the name of running. Like, I count my calories, and I lift weights, I do some cross training, but I'm very performance motivated in that sense. So I want to get my times down. I want to, and so the losing weight's just been a great benefit of that. And so, excuse me. And once I discovered BMR and basic metabolism rate, that really helped out a lot as well, because really you can stay within that certain range and still perform, still go out and run every day. Well, not every day, I wouldn't recommend that, but go out and run and lift weights and do what you need to, but you can still keep your calories within range.
So my turning point really happened in 2008. That's when I was 25. That was the second time I actually injured that bad ankle. And I, at that point, didn't even know how heavy I actually was. My home scale stopped at 315. And I would just get a message saying error. And in my brain, that meant, well, it's just an error. I'm not over. My scale's broken. So I didn't know for the longest time how over I actually was. I just assumed I had a broken scale. I ended up in the ER because I had strep throat so badly I could not breathe. And so I'm in the ER, and they're trying to give me IV antibiotics. And they're like, we kind of need to know what you weigh. So I had to go get weighed, and that's when I actually found out what I was. And when I saw that number, I knew there was no way I could continue to keep putting on weight. Otherwise, I was going to end up just like my dad. So I knew I had to try anything. So even though my ankle was busted, even though I was out of breath every chance I tried to, I walked. And I would just try to walk a step further each day, every day that I could. And finally, in 2015, I got my ankle fixed and relearned how to walk. And I've been walking 3-4 miles a day ever since. And this year I actually signed up and have done now 2 5Ks, and I've got 3 more signed up to do. So just started walking and started trying to keep my portions in control, but that just kind of happened as I got more active.
Like I said in the beginning, my body basically gave out. I never had bad blood pressure. I never had cholesterol. I never had diabetes. My blood panels were perfect. I was just overweight. but your body can hold on to that forever without showing signs. When I turned 40, I hit 445 pounds, and I was diabetic, and I had high cholesterol, and doctor said, you are not going to survive like this. You're working 70 hours a week on your feet. You're killing your body. You hurt every morning. You hurt every night. You need to do something. I need you to get gastric bypass. I researched a bunch of clinics and I found one that I absolutely am grateful for. They gave me a dietitian, a therapist, a life coach, and everybody in that program. I lost 100 pounds in the year it took me to get approved for it through my insurance. I was going to opt out of it, but my blood doctor, my primary doctor, and the surgeon said, you've got too much weight on you to keep trying to fight this by yourself. So I had gastric bypass on February 18th, 2022. And I lost an additional 157. So for a grand total of 257 pounds in about 2.5 years.
But now knowing that what life was like before and what life is like now, do you have any advice that you would like to give to, especially like the fat talkers you see that are so stuck and
lose weight when you're young?
I actually reach
young.
out. I reach out to a lot of young women that are in my business because I work in a kitchen and there's a lot of big women, young girls, 22, 21, and they're in this fat acceptance. And they come to me because they've seen how much weight I've lost in a really fast time. They're like, oh, the gastric bypass is the answer. I said, no, baby, get a dietitian, get a therapist, find out why you're relating to food the way you are. Get somebody that'll sit there and make a plan that you can follow with food you like.
They totally lose weight younger. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
And I really wish you would just believe the calories in versus calories out. It is literally that simple. It is literally that simple.
It is.
Definitely like to add that if you're going to say that you love yourself, that's an action. You have to put in the work, and you're worth it. So if you're going to say you love yourself, it's not just hair and makeup or nails or clothes or whatever. It's actually putting in the work of what makes you you, and your body is kind of a really big part of that.
So like Maya, you are so smart and so lucky to start this right now. I wish I did that when I was never really unhappy with myself, but like looking back on like how I feel now versus like the slow, gradual like of destroying your body. Like I wish I started this 10 years ago. And like I really wish the best for you, and like I believe in you, but like 110%, like I get it. And yeah, I just want to say that because when you said like you were like in like your early 20s, I'm like, you're so smart. I wish I did that. And I'm only 30. I'm not even old, like relatively to like actual age versus the mean 20-year-olds.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. And like, I mean, honestly, the biggest piece of advice that I would ever give is to get outside of your head, because it took me so long to realize that a problem, the weight that I put on over years, I wasn't going to lose overnight. And that's what kept stopping me for so long, is because, oh, it's not happening as quick as I want it to. And I think that's why so many people get wrapped up in weight loss, because it's not happening as fast as they want it to. But you have to realize progress is not linear, but as long as you are making the effort, even if you have a bad day, to come back and do better the next day and continue on, that's what's going to help you. It's making those changes that are sustainable. You cannot, live on 500 calories every day, exercise for 3 hours and think that's healthy. It's not. No. And it took me so long.
I think the one thing that I would implore a lot of the fat talkers, just talking to them directly, is for them to stop telling people that they can't do this. Like, it's fine for you to do whatever you want, but like, motivation matters for a lot of people. And stop telling people that weight loss is not possible. Long-term weight loss is not possible, because the people on this call are representative of, yes, it is. It's totally possible if you're committed to doing it. And I think a lot of what they're putting out into the world is kind of toxic. Is in the name of positivity, they're putting out a message of negativity. And I think that's just not what we need.
You pretty much took almost the words right out of my mouth, because I was just thinking almost the same thing. They are unhappy. They're not. They act like they're happy, but they're really not, and they're trying to bring people down to their level.
Yeah.
And because they say, the saying is misery loves company. That's what they're doing. They're not inspiring. They're not motivating. They're just trying to get more of them and bring people down to them instead of trying to lift people up.
100%.
And my advice,
Yeah.
my advice would be simple: just get off your ass. It's really just that simple. I mean, you can perform, you can do the work, and you always hear all this talk about, and some of these fat acceptance videos about, like, I love my body, I celebrate my body, and how is sitting around and eating and doing nothing with your body celebrating it? And something I've found in performance is that your body is always capable of more than you realize. If you do 10 reps, you can probably do 15 reps. If you run 5 miles, you can probably run 10 miles.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and walk for an hour, you could probably walk 2 hours on an uphill route. And so you find yourself pushing yourself, and that, in my opinion, is more of a celebration of your body than posting videos about how fat I am and how beautiful I am.
Right. And like, if you truly love your body enough in all stages, because weight loss, yeah, your body's going to change and stuff. And if you really love it, you will see that transformation. You love yourself enough to change for the better and really help yourself in the long run. Because with the way that I was going, I was really sick. At 19 years old, I was having heart palpitations walking up the stairs to my apartment. And it was very upsetting to be losing my mobility that young. And it makes me sad seeing all these people that are young and are severely overweight and are going to continue to gain weight. And then you see all these fat activists who have recently passed away. It's so disheartening. Like with Jamie Lopez, my heart broke for her because she lost like a bunch of weight before she eventually passed away.
And these people are telling people that weight loss itself is bad for you. I mean, like, what kind of that? It's just outrageous.
Yeah.
You're ignoring science. You're ignoring your own eyes. You're ignoring your own senses. That this is not healthy. It's not. And stop telling people that it is.
Yeah, and one of their talking points that gets me is, there's no studies of people dying by obesity, and so they don't die by obesity; they die by obesity-related deaths. Heart disease and things like that. It's not obesity directly that's going to kill you. It's everything that comes with it. And on top of it too, weight loss, it isn't, just like Maya said, it's not instantaneous. It takes time. That's why it's called a journey. It's a marathon. Right. And like Aaron, like you said, you push yourself. You start small and you work really big. That's why, like I said, I started with just cardio and a little bit of walking. I would walk around by where I worked, and eventually I just started losing more weight. I got into weight training and all that. And at this point, I've lost almost 140 pounds since I started, and it didn't happen instantly. It took time. It took over a year. I'm like, 16 months in now, and that's where I'm at. And they just need to realize that it takes effort, it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes discipline.
And that it doesn't end. Like, no, it's a lifelong journey, that it changes over time. But like, that's why people, when you talk about people losing weight and regaining, it's because they think, oh, I've reached the end of this, I can go back to where I was before. But like, it's got to be, when we talk about, you don't
realize you have to keep doing it.
Right. It's that you have to figure out a system that works for you, that you can just live with, because the goal constantly moves.
I'd like to thank Zoe, Maya, Bryant, Vishal, Sabrina, Aaron, Katie, and Susan for participating on this panel with me. Your vulnerability and strength will be inspiring to so many people. And if you like what you saw and you would like to be a part of a panel, send me a message on Instagram at Mom That Dances. I'll be doing more of these in the future. So until next time, stay body positive, but also body honest.